We are on the chapter 5, vacant land, residential real estate. So, a vacant land is has few of the important aspects. Essentially, there has been a recent increase in interest for the vacant land. So, in this chapter, we are going to study about selected factors to consider while acquiring a vacant land, identify and explain key elements to consider in purchase of a vacant land for building purposes, including lot dimensions, purchase price calculations, severances, provision of service, obtaining a building permit, and determining the building location. Outline the outline the typical clauses to be considered when drafting an offer containing vacant land for the building purposes. Discuss tax incentive programs available to lower property taxes on for forested land. Briefly describe key features and issues to consider in the larger rural acreage. Discuss farm property with particular emphasis on changing farm scene, farming classification, recent legislation affecting listing and sale of farming operations, ramifications of proper farm practice protection on nearby properties, including an appropriate clause wording to be inserted in the agreement of purchase and sale. So let's go to the vacant land. So there are a buyer acquires vacant land for various reasons. The prospective purchase may be intended on building a home, setting aside land for future use, securing a rural hideaway, or simply investing in hopes of selling as the land prices increase. Regardless, certain key factors need to be considered by acquiring a vacant land. Location, as is as is real estate, makes make certain that the location meets personal and investment needs. If the purchase is for investment, carefully assess land potential for future future development. Detailed research is necessary to discover the true potential, the two opportunities and variety of uses possible. Physical attributes, parcel size, and natural features such as hill, forests, or streams are all factors in selecting the right property. Pay particular attention to aesthetic of the land, as these can play a key role in the future value. The third is boundary and surveys insist on up-to-date survey from the seller, or if unavailable, include an appropriate clause to require the seller to provide new one. Access easement and restrictions. Important question to consider: how is the property access? What utilities are available? Are there any easement registered against the property that will affect the future use? Do any regulatory agencies control how the land is used, or whether the structure can be built? And what zoning restrictions will impact the intended use? Initial or ongoing costs. Buyer may seek investment returns by holding vacant land for future sale. Proper budgeting is essential. Vacant land purchases require all cash or some form of financing like seller's take back. Ongoing expenses for this financing, along with taxes, any maintenance and liability insurance, must be taken into consideration. While acquiring property for long-term investment, carefully consider uses that may guarantee some income to offset expenses. Check zoning for permitted use. Market trend and activity. Buying vacant land for investment is all about timing. Carefully analyze market trends. Go beyond sales activities and look at proper look at underlying causes. Assess what social or economic pressure will affect land in specific location. So to recap, the key factors involve location, physical attributes, boundary or survey, access easement restrictions, initial or ongoing costs, revenue that can be obtained from it, market trends on activity. Buying vacant land for investment is all about timing. Vacant land and residential building lots. Smaller acreages and lot in the rural areas are popular, as many buyers plan to build a residential home on a rural building that affords them more lot sizes, amenities such as wood or a stream, and increased privacy. Know the exact dimensions of a lot, how the purchase price is determined, if the sale is subject to severance, what services are available to a lot, whether or not a building permit can be obtained, and what limitation exists concerning the site location for the building. Lot dimension should be precise on and an up-to-date survey is essential. Lot dimension should be precise and an up-to-date survey is essential. Frontage, that's side of a lot that abuts a public market, public street or highway. The distance between front and rear lot lines, distance between the side lines of a lot. So the lot dimensions include frontage, depth, width, side, shape, and the regular shape. Purchase price: smaller vacant land parcels are typically purchased on a per lot basis. However, larger acreage may be transacted on a per acre arrangement. Still subject to severance. Land severance procedures are detailed what detailed earlier. A seller may be offering vacant land for sale prior to the final severance approval. In such a case, appropriate conditions should be included in the agreement of purchase and sale. For example, a condition regarding severance could have a buyer could be case that a buyer is submitting an offer on the vacant residential lot. The lot is not yet severed, so the buyer includes some appropriate condition making the offer conditional upon the seller completing the severance. Provision of services. In some instances, the land being purchased may not fall under the Hydro One network or specified number of meters of free wire from the last pole location on a dedicated accepted road allowance. Given this situation, the buyer may incur costs regarding telephone installation. Obtaining the building permit is are required, and the steps involved: application review the receipt of permit and inspection, and the review in this process involves the review of zoning, architectural, structural, and mechanical. Building location: the buyer may also take into consideration various zoning provisions which can impact building location and size beyond normal zoning setbacks. Special requirement may apply concerning environmental sensitive areas, building in close proximity to navigable waterways, setback to public highways, and establish building lines in build-up areas. Rural building location may also be affected by soil condition, extent of rock outcropping, and minimum drainage clearance when installing a private sewage system. Vacant land or waterfront. Residents focusing on vacant land in irrigation areas will encounter vacant land with frontage of river or lakes. Issues already addressed under vacant land or building apply here as well. Forested land or bush lot. Small forested properties are found in southern Ontario, with large bush lots located in other areas. In some instances, the smaller properties may be the part of a farm, hobby farm, or merely an acreage set for tree farming of maple, oaks, hammock, and birch, the production of fireworks, and the growing Christmas tree. Still, other forested areas are maintained and preserved by individual for aesthetic reasons. Managed Forest Tax Incentive Program. This tax incentive program provides for lower property taxes if the owner agrees to conserve woodlands that consist of less than 4 acres, excluding the residences. That consists of less than 4 hectares, I'm sorry, excluding residences. As a part of the application process, the owner must complete a managed forested plan with a long-term horizon along with a 10-year plan of activities and have it approved by a managed forest plan approver. The application deadline is June 30 for consideration relating to the subsequent taxation year. Residents should be aware of various procedures set forth under this program. When listing a managed forested property, confirm with the seller and with the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation that the property is assessed as a managed forest and not as a residential property. The managed forest plan is the property of the landowner, and the property that are sold are removed from the program by MPAC Also, association involved in this program will not provide copies of the document without seller's permission. Seller can assist in providing the copies of the managed forest plan and and his or her notice of property assessment. The owner may also have the property of Ontario Managed Forest Extended Program guide. Buying a managed forest property. When purchasing a managed forest property, the buyer should verify that the property is currently classified as a managed forest. The buyer should be informed that the property will automatically be removed from the managed forest class tax class at the point of sale unless the buyer applies to the program. The buyer should be advised that if she does not apply to the program, property tax may increase as a result. Our application must be received by MNR within 90 days of the closing of the sale. The buyer may also be aware that he or she is responsible for any taxes owning up to 5 years back if the property was classified as managed fire but was later found not to have been eligible for the applicable tax class. The agreement of purchase and sale should contain a clause or other provision as the buyer lawyers may require, protecting the buyer regarding the reassessment because the property was ineligible under the program while under the seller's ownership. Buyer wishes to continue the program. Buyer shall obtain and carefully read the copy of the Ontario managed forest tax incentive program guidelines for a full program description, and he has 90 days before the sale closing to reapply. Um, Essentially, he needs to review the program guide, attempt to get a copy of the managed forest plan from the seller, update the current plan and prepare a new one, have the plan approved by the managed forest plan approver. Larger acreages can attract buyers seeking add-on to an existing farm operation, hobby farming, or those seeking a country retreat or secluded building site. Some include existing structures. Most are a mix of tillable working acreages for cash crops. Agriculture portions may include either random tiling or systematic tiling every 40 to 60 feet. Farm property and overview. Farm is a tract of land having a single property devoted to agriculture. Farm is a tract of land forming a single property devoted to agriculture. Selling farm property. The resident should be well informed about the soil type, including drainage problems, fertility, and fertilizer use. Kind of livestock crops best suited to the area, problems of seeding, harvesting, mechanical and equipment required. Kind of livestock crops best suited to the area, problems seeding, harvesting, and mechanical and equipment required. Changing farm scene. There is a decreasing number of farmers, laborers, and total farm population. More competition, and there is a technology advancement happening. So the whole farming scene is changing. The small farms continue to be a significant component of the overall farming scene, but the incident of farm work is prevalent. So essentially, a part-time employment um, for some farmers is better because they can build sufficient resources to because they are hedged against the problems um, of low market prices or poor market conditions than a full-time farmer. The farm corporation for some years now they seem to be having returned to larger farms in order to provide viable operation. The trend has come about because of the rising labor costs, rising food costs, and increasing proper large investment in equipments. Viable farm, a business that under a good management is able to yield adequate returns on the resources, land, labor, and capital employed. Farming classification. Special purpose farms like the fruit, vegetables, tobacco for a particular use purpose. Livestock farms, which also have a livestock. And there's a cash crop farms, grain, wheat, corn, soybean, and also it may contain a house storage facility and a shelter. Farming and nutrient management. Farms are coming under increasing scrutiny from the environmental perspective, and registrants should be generally aware of the relevant legislation. Nutrient management broadly refers to the regulatory control as to how nutrients are applied to land and generally managed in an environmentally responsible manner. Nutrient sources are found in manure, commercial fertilizers, biosolids generated by municipal sewage treatment facilities, and pulp and paper sludge. Such management has been addressed in the patchwork of provincial regulation, municipal bylaws, and other regulatory provisions, and demanded consolidation under province-wide standard. Nutrient Management Act. A comprehensive approach to nutrient management is required to protect water, environment, and well-being of communities while ensuring that various affected operations can effectively operate within such a framework. So, a Nutrient Management Act 2002 was introduced a new standard for land applied materials containing nutrients, including new inspection and compliance measures, authorities for remedial actions, and provisional enforcement. The Act, best described as an enabling statute, sets the stage for future regulatory provisions, includes a two-tier conceptual framework, which is a nutrient management plan and the nutrient management strategy. Nutrient management plan are established for different types of operations that are involved with land applied materials containing nutrients. Accordingly, varying requirements are then in place depending on whether the plan applies, for example, to a farming operation or to a municipal sewage treatment plant. Nutrient management strategy is set out in details how such operations manage nutrient materials on a day-to-day basis. Impact on listing or selling. Nutrient Management Act, from a registrar perspective, has the most impact on the farm and other geographical operations, particularly regarding storage, handling, and use and transportation of commercial fertilizers. Requirements to develop, document, and retain records relating to nutrient management plans and strategy. Required qualifications for farmers, other supplying such material. Establishment of minimum distance requirement regarding land applications to protect adjacent land and watershed sources. Drafting offers properties near farms. Ontario Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs is responsible for Farming and Food Protection Act, also called as FFPPA, passed in 1998. This legislation replaces the previous Farm Practice Protection Act. So, so there's a protection for the farmers um, against against nuisance complaints and subsequent lawsuits and injunctions. The FA also ensures that farming and food production industry is protected from restrictive municipal bylaws that can stain the normal farming practice. The Food Production and the Farming and Food Production Protection Act contains provisions for a municipal bylaw to be challenged if it's deemed to restrict the normal farming practice being carried out as a part of the agriculture operation. A person or municipality may apply to the normal farm practice board for determination as to whether the practice is considered to be a normal farm practice. If so, such practice would not fall under the scope of the restricted municipal bylaw. That also applies to bylaw implemented before FFPPA came into force. The strategy in dealing with municipal bylaws is multi-stage approach. Education program by ministry, staff and farm group provide municipality with an understanding of what constitutes normal farming practice. Municipalities are encouraged to consult with Ontario Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, farm groups and farmers prior to creating bylaws that might impact the farming community. Normal Farm Practice Protection Board, established under FFPPA, is composed of members appointed by the Minister of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs. Hearing before NFPPB are subject to are similar to court hearings. Somehow, however, less farmers parties before the court do not require representation by a lawyer or an agent. So this board can dismiss the complaint by the disturbance rests from a normal farm practice, can order farmers to cease, can order farmers to modify. Also, NFPPB can authorized to rule nuisance by bylaw cases and bylaw case involving vehicular movement. So to recap, um, vacant land buyers should take various factors into consideration, including location, physical attribute, boundaries, access, easement, restriction, and market trends, and initial and ongoing cost. Uh, accurate lot dimensions and set up accurate surveys. Lot purchases on a per acre basis typically provide that any discrepancy in the area will be adjusted on closing. Conditions relating to vacant land include sale subject to severance. Buyers of forested land bush lot may be interested in advantages provided under managed tax forested program. Reasons involve With forested land should inquire as to the current requirements under the Managed Forest Tax Incentive Program. Farm property overview is provided, including the skills needed in selling farm property and fundamental farming challenges taking place at this time. Farms are broadly classified into special purpose livestock and cash crop farms. Farms fall under various legislative requirements. The recent Nutrient Management Act warrants special mention given the expanding concern over environmental issues in the marketplace. Legislation should exercise caution when marketing rural residential properties in close proximity to operating farms. Farming protection. The Farming and Food Protection Act includes provisions to protect farmers from nuisance complaints and lawsuits resulting from the disturbance such as odor, dust, flies, light, smoke, and noise and vibration. And with this, we are done with chapter 5, vacant lands. Thanks for your time.